Feminism misunderstands evolutionary facts. Let me make this clear. I do not value anything objectively, and I try to keep my own personal subjective values separate, because bias makes it impossible to have a realistic view on things. If you are making inferences, they are based on your own subjective values and are therefore irrelevant. It is simply an empirical fact that women gain tremendous amount of inherent value from their wombs. Don't blame me for that, it is simply how our species has evolved to be. One man can populate an entire village, whereas every woman counts. Men are less valuable, and that is why we have this thing called male disposability. You might have noticed that throughout history men served in the army. Men did dangerous jobs like mining. Men hunted, fought off threats, and even to this day are expected to endanger themselves to protect a woman in trouble, and are shamed as cowards if they refuse. Why? Because society doesn't need your sperm. We have plenty, so you've got to find other ways of making yourself useful, making yourself valuable. This is why men have evolved to become so much stronger than women, physically, of course. Throughout history, women have been twice as likely as men on average to reproduce. That means women have had twice as big an impact on the human genome through their reproductive choices. Choices, yes, and it is women who choose, not men. It is males who must court females, females who give their approval. Our modern rituals of buying a girl a drink or proposing to her are just our version of male chimps bringing fruit to females they want to mate with, or male birds who impress females with their dances. What do women look for in a man? Well, strong, confident, intelligent, maybe funny. A man who can protect and look after her, and, more importantly, her young. This is why humans are a species with such pronounced sexual dimorphism when compared with other species. Having just one child with each pregnancy, sometimes 2 or 3, it further enhances inherent female value. This is also why men strive to be competitive and create things, to please women, to earn status, to gain even a tiny bit of value women innately have that makes them so much more valued than men. To the point where society is so focused on women that even when men are murdered, raped, and assaulted, all we ever hear about is female victims and why we should be outraged on their behalf. It's why no one cares that the male suicide rate is 4 times higher, or that 75% of homeless people are men. This is, of course, just in the United States. There are countries with other percentages, but putting that aside. It's why we spend so much more on women's health issues, even though they outlive men by several years and have higher survival rates for most illnesses. It's why the media always says women and children were killed, not just people were killed. In most modern societies, if I am homeless, the government is not going to give me a shelter. I am not going to get offers from people on the street to sleep in their homes. No one is going to give me free shit. I do have to earn those things. Whereas, well, women can get them quite easily. If you don't see the double standards in how men and women are valued and looked after, you're ignorant. Society values women more, and it's not because they're amazing superheroes who create everything good and destroy everything bad, because for the most part, it's men doing those things. It's because women are inherently valued, because they are needed more. It's supply and demand. We need women for reproduction, much more than men. So they are valued more. So we protect and look after them more. If it works that way in a market, why would it not work that way elsewhere? Now, before you grab your pitchforks and torches, there's no point in trying to shame me or attack me for simply pointing out a very basic element of human social dynamics. It's really not my fault the world is the way it is, nor is it even necessarily a bad thing. That depends on your personal subjective values, and if your values cannot yield to reality, then that is your problem, and getting upset with men won't fix it. Well, it seems to me like radical feminists are the people who value women's role less. Hence, they need to twist reality to suit their different values. Now, I am not invalidating female contributions. There are plenty of women in history, in, well, today's societies too, who have contributed to the society as a whole. Well, nor am I making any statement on my own personal values regarding reproduction or civilization building. Feminists are making assumptions based on their own meaningless subjective values, which I don't care about because they are not useful in describing anything other than how they personally feel about things. If you will not approach things from a scientific perspective, then you are worse than a sexist. You are like a religious person attacking evolution because it conflicts with your worldview, holding back progress as a result, for purely emotional, irrational reasons. I'm simply describing the world as it is, based on the evidence at hand. If you think that is sexism, then you think biology is sexist. And I guess maybe it is, to an extent. I would say more so towards men, though, because we are considered to be more disposable. At the very least, it certainly doesn't care about your feelings or about how equal we are. That's not how evolution works. It simply provides mechanisms which enable species to either live or go extinct. And for now, our current setup is working. So whether it is chauvinistic or not really doesn't matter, because as the dominant species with advanced technology, it's serving us quite well. The point of less equal countries not having the luxury of choice is a rather odd one. What does an example where free choice does not exist tell us, other than what those people are forced to do? If you're going to take a snapshot of poor, oppressive, industrializing nations as proof of anything, they are simply proof of how some parts of the world are in this particular century. They tell us nothing of how humans are predisposed to behave, but how they can be made to behave. I'm sure you would rather live in a country where people are free to make their own choices, even if that means 80% of engineers will be men. You'd live in that society, rather than a world where authoritarianism and poverty forces people to do things they don't like in equal ratios, consequently making the society miserable. So, in closing, evolution is sexist, and it won't and can't be changed by standing on soapboxes and yelling misogyny and patriarchy. Thank you very much for listening. If you wish to further discuss these topics, leave a comment below. I will also respond to feedback, negative or positive. If you agree with my arguments, do the usual. Like, subscribe, share, whatever. You know the drill.